mlaen yn i at yr ail eitem, sef datgan o fuddiant personol neu un sy'n rhagfarnu. Os yna rhywbeth fel arfer, os oes yna rhywbeth yn dod ar ein traws ni, sydd eisiau datgan diddordeb, tynwch yn sylwi ato fe. A nawr dwi'n gweld bod Siw wedi ymuno ni. Felly, a warm welcome to you, Siw. This is your first meeting with us as chair of the AAG. Just wishing the best to Steve anyway, who will step down. But yeah, so welcome to this forum anyway. Felly, item 3 yw ni, cofnodion cyfarfod ytha. Fel wedodd Jake, dwi ddim yn ymddangos bod esbel fach yn ôl beth yna. Felly, cyfarfod ar y 5 o Mehefin oedd hynny. Felly, gallai gael rhywun I cynnig cywrdeb i ddechrau. Jake?
I'm more than happy to propose them. Obviously, there's the 2 sets of minutes, and I'm content with both. OK,
diolch yn fawr am hynny, Jake. Felly, os pawb yn hapus bod ni sy'n mynd mlaen, unrhyw faterion, any matters arising from those? Ti Carwyn yn ymwybodol rhywbeth?
Dim byd yn codi o fy mersbectif I na. Mae'r argymellion I gyd wedi, gafodd ei gymeradwyau I gyd wedi gweithredu bellach. Mae'r llythyrau cynnig grant I gyd wedi mynd i'r prosiectau a gymeradwyed yn y cyfarfod dwytha.
Good, diolch yn fawr ti am hynny. Felly os nag oes dim byd arall I adrodd arno, na I croesawu 2 pres y corwad gyda'i slot arferol I roi diweddariad ni o ran y partneriaeth sgiliau rhanbarthol. Felly, prawn da 2 yn over to you.
Diolch, thanks Leader. Let me just share my screen so I can see the document, just to follow. Okay, just the usual progress on the 5 areas that we report on a monthly basis. Just where we are on careers, information, advice and guidance. So we reported last time we were starting an idea around creating a library of films for schools to have access to and teachers to have access to around specific sector information. So a video specific to the engineering sector, construction and so on. We started scoping out that work and looking at the types of subjects we're looking to cover and exactly the different types of organisations that companies that want to be involved.
Sorry, Dai, I'll stop you there, Dai. There's a bit of echo, so I'm not sure if everybody can mute just to see how things pan out. Try it again then, Dai. Sorry, wait.
Is that better?
Yeah, good there.
Better. Okay, thank you. So that work has commenced. So it's just starting to scope of that work and engage with a filmmaker to do that. With a view of that being ready by the new year. So we've also met recently with the Ceredigion heads to talk about that idea and the Careers in 360 platform that we're looking to launch shortly, and it's all been well received and they've given us some good ideas. Just to say as well, recently in the last couple of weeks we've also met with the Powys heads as well, and we've had the same sort of response. So but I'll report that formally in the next paper. So Careers in 360, so this is our platform for new careers advice and guidance for young people to access. So it's pretty much ready to go. It looks like it'll be ready to be launched in September. Again, I met with the heads in the last couple of weeks, Ceredigion and Powys, to talk about how we're going to roll that out in schools. So working with both education departments, Gareth in Ceredigion and I forget his name now, in Powys, to work with the heads in the schools about how we're going to roll that out and show people. There's a link there for people to have a look at the demo of the video. It's a few months old that the demo is. It's a more up-to-date one, which I'll put in the next paper, but it'll give you a good idea of what it's going to look like, and it's really exciting sort of gamified approach to exploring the world of skills. And then the final item on careers. So we've been work is sort of the next step along really from the Careers in 360. It's about young people seeing the careers portal, saying they've got an interest in something, and how do we link that interest up with an actual employer in the area? So we've been talking to the schools and businesses in our cluster groups about how they can get in front of young people in schools. So we're starting to diarise some dates in some schools. We've got 3 volunteer schools in Ceredigion and 3 in Powys, which is great news. And we're going to be looking at specifically construction, manufacturing, and engineering over the next academic year, just to see how it goes, to see what the interest is, and try and iron out a real nice process and structure with a view then in further years to widening that scope to lots of different other sectors as well. Then we got fit for purpose training provision. So there was a lot of conversation with businesses that early on that they felt that some of the training provision in the region that was being delivered wasn't quite what they were looking for. We've done a lot of work engaging with schools, Welsh Government around this, MEDA, which is the new post-16 sort of organisation that looks after this, and doing a lot of work with our provider groups to try and improve the types of things that have been delivered. We're making progress. We're not quite there yet, but it is improving. And we've got the important thing I think now about this is we've got the right people around the table talking about it and listening. So it's been really positive. And the same with leadership and management qualifications. We've been doing a lot of work with Welsh Government around personal learning accounts to make sure they're accessible, and that's improved as well. So this is interesting when the improving access to apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships. So in the last report, I reported that we were involved in the scrutiny panel with the Senedd, where we reported about businesses' feelings around apprenticeships in the region, and how to access apprenticeships and young people accessing apprenticeships. As a result of that process, they've come up with 5 recommendations, which are here. The full paper the full report is in the paper on a link. But the 5 big ones which we were asking for were, despite recent improvements, apprenticeships should be introduced as a viable career pathway earlier in schools. Apprenticeships should be given equal status to academic routes when school learners are introduced to potential career pathways. They were 2 really key areas we wanted to see improved. School learners needed to be well informed about apprenticeship opportunities at all ages, which was another key area. 2 other areas that they've added, which I think will really help with this, is about launching a campaign to inform employers of all sizes in Wales about apprenticeships, because I think there's still a lot of myths that need to be busted around apprenticeships, especially for smaller organisations. And develop a national apprenticeship hub to ease access to all apprenticeships related information. So the 2 things: one, businesses were struggling with understanding the frameworks, and 2, I think young people were confused, and parents as well, is how do they access apprenticeships? Where do we go from further information? So they're looking to clear that up with this hub idea, which is really welcomed by the RSP board. So 2 final areas that we reported on: energy. So we've got a bit to do in this area to understand the need for the region. One of the things we're doing is a piece of work around local area energy plans. So understanding, for us to meet our net zero commitments, how many electricians we're going to need, how many plumbers we're going to need in the region, how many air source heat pump engineers, and trying to model that up into numbers so we can speak to training providers, schools, young people to say, this is coming, these are the opportunities, these are the qualifications required. And then also as well, retrofit. So we're doing a lot of work in this space at the moment, trying to understand, trying to engage with businesses, plumbers, electricians, builders, to understand what the commitment, what they need to do to be involved in the retrofit sort of movement. One of the things we've done recently in June was we went to a Robert Price event with Robert Price, where they invited all their suppliers in, where we could talk to them about retrofit and the opportunities that come with that. So the opportunity for work and bidding for work with housing associations, councils and various other organisations. Interestingly, we took a different approach on that to our other counterparts in sort of West Wales and Cardiff, where they've put on events and asked people to attend, and their take-up's been very low. So we're using suppliers going forward to try and access that market. And then the final area is the growth deal. So we're embarking on quite an interesting piece of work with the growth deal team and the managers to try and understand in each of the growth deal projects, what are the opportunities for developing skills, what are the types of jobs that are going to come out the other end of it, so we can prepare young people in advance. So in 2 or 3 years' time, there is a workforce available for them when the projects are ready to run. So happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr, Dai. Thank you for your report as usual. Cwpl o bethau gyda fi. Mi fes I mewn cwarfod rhai diwrnod yn ôl gyda Bute Energy. Beth bynnag mae pobl yn meddwl o Bute, mae'n bwysig eistedd lawr gyda nhw. Chi'n clywed lot am tirbydd cymunedol pe bydde ceisiadau'n cael eu caniatáu. Mae yna hefyd bydd gyda nhw ar gyfer hyfforddiant. Felly mae'n awyddus iawn os bydden nhw'n cael caniatâd cynllunio I codi mlynau gwynt. Mi fydden nhw yn edrych yn lleol ar gyfer darpariaeth hyfforddiant. Mae hwnna'n gweithio eisoes lawr yn Coleg y Cymoedd fel fi'n deall, Dai. Felly fi'n cymryd bod chi'n ymwybodol o'r pot arian yna o bosib. Dyle fe ddim bod yn crotsen I ni cael o ran y cynllunio bod ni'n rhoi'r penwyniad oherwydd hynny, ond os yw'r peth yn mynd I ddod yma nes bod ni'n gallu cael elwa rhywbeth mas yn fe. So os ydych chi'n dod nôl ar pwynt yna, Dai mi hwnna Jake wedyn ni.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right there. These things are there, they're available, irrespective of whether we wish to support an application, should one be approved, and they're PEDU applications for determination anyway. It helps that we set out our stall, and I've made arrangements as well to speak to Bute during the show and others. I think it's important that we carry on doing that. So thank you for that. I had 2 points here. One was around the all of the stuff around careers, a 360, and the conversations, David, that you're having with, I think, Gareth and probably Dr. Richard at our end. There, looking at post-16 education. We're clearly carrying out a post-16 review at the moment. It's a place you've been yourselves, but in the autumn, then in September, we're carrying out a particular set of engagement with young people themselves to clearly get the student or the learner voice here, and not wanting to complicate that process. Clearly, everything that you were speaking to there about seeking feedback and understanding about career pathways, etc., and what is suitable, not only for those that are deciding to stay on at their school, to go to a college, to go somewhere else into tertiary, etc., is really important for us. And I'm just, want to make sure that we are doing all we can to capture that, and I'm sure Dr. Richard is doing that, but I just wanted to flag it here because it'll then be recorded and taken away and hopefully actioned. The second point is about apprenticeships. I was doing the quarterly or the outturn review for People Services and Q1 just earlier this week, and our apprenticeship numbers have dropped. We're below our target, and one of the issues that we have, and perhaps you don't have it there in Ceredigion, is that we have a difficulty sometimes matching pupils with learning establishments. So we can offer them a practical placement, but the learning for that might well be in England, so it's I think there's another piece of work that needs to be done around ironing out the wrinkles about cross-border transference of money and skills and jobs and opportunities, because of course we pay our money, it goes to the UK government, comes back to the Welsh government, and so it's flowing backwards and forwards across the border, but our apprenticeship students are finding it difficult to do so. So I'm just flagging that, Di, for future conversations you might have with ministers or others.
Diolch yn fawr, Jake. So, few points between Jake and myself. Dau, dechrau off gyda Bute wedyn ni, gynta wedyn ni o'r pwynt yn cyffredinol gyda Jake.
Yep, no problem. I totally understand what you're saying around Bute Energy and others. So we have met with Bute Energy, we met with EDF, Scottish Power. So to start this conversation around the skills element, which I'm really keen to take up with us. So we are going to be establishing an energy group, which will just be for distribution network operators to talk about their skill requirements in region. We've also been talking to them about how that could be transferred into one of the growth deal projects around the Advanced Manufacturing Centre. So that whole conversation is beginning, which we're really pleased with, and they are really proactive at the table as well, if I can say that. So I will report on that going forward at this meeting. Going on to careers, the Careers in 360 portal and the POWIS post-16 review. We are on the post-16 board in POWIS, so we are very well linked up with it. The Careers in 360 portal has been created in partnership with both education departments in Powys and Ceredigion. It's not something we've done in a silo, so everybody is well cited on it, and we will be using all the information together. And it's important, we want to say as well, we've been out to a number of schools around the Careers in 360 portal and tested it with young people. So we've got a lot of feedback around that, which we'll share with both local authorities as well. So it's good that we're working together in that way. Regarding apprenticeships, yes, we have a concern about young people going over to Shrewsbury College, to be honest, to access learning throughout their apprenticeship. It's something we have raised with MEDA, and we are talking to our local colleges about. And I'll pick that up in further meetings as that sort of conversation progresses, and happy to take it offline privately in other conversations as well.
Iawn, Jake.
Thank you.
Good, diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn fawr, Dai. Os na ragor o gwestiynau neu sylwadau I Dai. Na, methu gweld neb arall. Felly, fel arfer, Dai, keep up the good work. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Felly, mlaen yn ni at yr eitem nesaf, sef eitem 5 a diweddariad ni o ran prif pwynta'r portfolio, gwahanol portfolio. Felly, drosto I ti Carwyn fel fi deall.
Yeah, diolch. I'll kickstart, but I'll bring some of the members of the team in to cover their respective areas. So I think, broadly speaking, in terms of the work of the team, we've been largely focused on preparations for the Royal Welsh next week, if I'm honest. It's largely dominated, but pleased to say we've got quite a full week planned in the Tŵr Brycheiniog building, both working with Powys colleagues and Ceredigion colleagues. We've got quite a packed agenda for the whole week, and I know members will be involved throughout the week. But and we've got that ministerial meeting lined up for the Monday now as well. In relation to the Mid Wales growth deal, I'm pleased to say we're continuing to make good progress across the portfolio. We still have some challenges with some of the early projects moving into delivery, largely in terms of just some of the more technical elements of working with them with the phased approach. But broadly speaking, we're in a pretty good position. We've had strong demand across things like the Commercial Property Investment Fund, and we have entered into delivery with claims going out through the door imminently, effectively, in terms of where we're at overall. From my perspective, I've still got the sort of recruitment of the portfolio director role to see through. So I will be re-recruiting that role imminently now in terms of the August sort of September window just to sort of build the remaining capacity of my of the portfolio management office. The main focus of the team largely has been on sort of adjusting the planning sort of side of things with the individual projects. You'll hear the detail now from Peter and colleagues across the team on the individual projects where they're at. But broadly speaking, a lot of organisations are considering, you know, the scale of investments they've got. They are significant projects, and you know, they are taking some time to consider where they're at with things, which is fine. But broadly speaking, what we've just submitted the strategic portfolio business case to government. So at the last board meeting, members approved the strategic portfolio business case, which the headline message was, you know, we're not changing the list of projects we've got. We're making progress on most of them. Some projects have been given a bit of a time period until the autumn to resolve, you know, where they're at with those bigger strategic questions of where they're heading. But broadly speaking, we've also got £12 million unallocated as well currently as it stands. But we are starting to have conversations around pipeline and what sort of opportunities there are, with sort of in conjunction with the Economic Advisory Group. We're starting to get the message out there in terms of that there are opportunities now in the Mid Wales Growth Deal. The other side of it as well is, because of the success of the Commercial Property Investment Fund, I've asked the team to look at options there to bring back to you as members in the autumn around possibly expanding that, whether expanding it in terms of, do we run another fund of a similar value or size, or do we double it, or do we look at it including other sectors as well. So we're doing a range of things now over the summer to prepare for the autumn effectively, is where the portfolio is at. So good progress on some projects, but we know there will be some change and some churn potentially, and there is funding available. So a lot of preparatory work really in terms of getting the options ready for you as members, for you to debate and make a decision on come the autumn. With that, I'll probably hand over then to my team to start running through the individual updates. And Dave, if I can bring you in on the digital programme.
Yeah, of course, deal, Karen. Yeah, afternoon all. So I'll, as I usually do, I'll work through the projects and then touch upon any activity areas of concern in the part a bit lower in the papers. So if I start with the mobile coverage capacity project, then well, it doesn't seem too long ago that we met, but it's over the last few weeks, and from the previous meeting, I touched upon the prioritization methodology that we were applying for the project, and how that was going to work. And really, over the past couple of weeks, we've been putting that into place really, and using the data we have to firm up those intervention areas and prioritize locations through I guess market engagement and engagement with the sector of late. They're saying that much of the publicly and commercially funded improvements in network provision across the region are largely done, so we won't see many more masts or network equipment being deployed from those avenues any further at the moment. And it really is, any improvements further than that will come down to local authority and GMW to make those improvements. So it just backs up the need for the project, and the provision at how it stands at the moment will largely stay the same. So those intervention areas we can largely confirm, but of course they'll be monitored during the course of the project to ensure we're working in the right area. On top of that, obviously there's the development of the grant scheme elements of that project as well, both the public sector asset improvements and the commercial sector grant element as well. So working up those individual areas. So if I move on to the next project, which in the papers is still referred to as the very hard to reach project, but maybe for today I'll refer to it as the fibre project, because after the previous meeting I have taken an action to take that back to the digital programme board and review that the title of that project, given the concerns of the perhaps negative connotations that title may give. So probably by the next time we meet, that project will have a different title. Now with that, we had a positive meeting with Welsh Government at the end of June to discuss the project, the delivery approach. I think with the digital infrastructure team there, and it was felt that the delivery approach and the methodology we're applying is logical and seems sensible at this time, in terms of considering what UK government doing, Welsh government doing, in before perhaps we take our project forward and are able to complement what others are doing. So we've done a lot of work over the last few weeks to analyze and process that data that we have so far. We developed a platform which we can visually identify the properties that we need to intervene, which is really useful and helpful when it comes to kind of procurement and targeting those properties that may get left behind and will still need intervention to provide fibre provision. So it's been really useful, that exercise. As said, once we get that full information, I think Welsh Government are looking towards their contract in their project October, November time this year, and once we have those details, we'll be able to progress the OBC and present it at this group, hopefully for approval. Going forward to looking at the business park fibre connectivity project, which, as we know, was approved to move into delivery earlier this year. Since we last met, the market engagement has taken place to ensure that the initial project scope was accurate and that the properties that we'd initially identified last year are still the ones we're going to target, which I'm pleased to say that they are, and the numbers largely stay the same. I've been working with procurement of late upon obviously the tender documentation to get that project into procurement as soon as possible. And I think in the paper there and the activity below, I've mentioned that perhaps we've had a bit of delay with procurement in progressing this particular project, but I'm happy to say that any issues that we did have been overcome, and we're making some positive progress now. And we're hoping to go out to procure and get a contractor on board within the next month or so, and get the papers out there. Similar position with the Laurel One project as well, really. So the project focuses on improving the Laurel One coverage across the region. So we're finalising the locations to deploy additional gateways, and working with the ICT and the assets teams to ensure that across the region we know where we can deploy gateways or where we can't, to ensure that increased coverage. And then working with the procurement team, of course, to work drafting documentation to go out on the business support and the grant management elements of that scheme as well. For both those projects, as I've mentioned in the papers, that subsidy assessment forms are completed, and working with the legal team in Powysend to get that information on the subsidy transparency database with Welsh Government as soon as possible as well. Just touching upon the enabling projects, I think last meeting I spoke about the need to extend the contract for the Streetwave work that we've been doing in mapping our mobile coverage. So I'm pleased to say, and through support from colleagues, we've been able to extend that contract for the next 6 months. So that will be really valuable in finalising those intervention areas for the mobile project. And then just moving on to open access agreement project. Now, again, I've kind of mentioned here that there has been a few delays and probably hasn't seen the progress I would have liked of late, and that's largely just to team members leaving the legal team, particularly in Ceredigion here, because I've been working with a particular member of the team there for quite some time, and they've left. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for some new members of the team there. But again, through engagement with them, that they are providing some support and some more tractions being made the last couple of weeks. So that's for the projects. I think in the activity areas below, as I've mentioned, there's a couple of reds there, procurement and legal, but hopefully, as I've just suggested there, we are overcoming those issues that were initially identified at writing of this report. So I think we can move those reds to closer to ambers now.
Good, diolch yn fawr, Dave. Felly, na i stopo fyna beth yna, Dave. Unrhyw gwestiynau neu sylwadau cyn bod fynd yn ôl mewn y Carwyn? Na, felly nôl at ti, Carwyn, please. Diolch yn fawr, Dave.
Diolch yn fawr. I'll bring in Peter next to cover the projects.
Diolch, Carwyn. Thanks, everybody. It's been some time since I was able to join you, so it's nice to be able to attend the Growing Mid Wales board once again. So as far as the standalone projects are concerned, we've got sort of 6 active projects at the moment, and 2 that have been on hold whilst we're working through some forward-looking plans around Aberaeron Harbours and the campus in Lampeter. Those 6 live projects have given us an amber status for this report. I think that, you know, it's fair to say that some of them are probably a bit harsh in themselves. I think there's some amber greens, if not greens, on some of them in terms of they're well on top of their project plans and are moving in quite a complex environment, but moving at pace and submitting business cases for intermediate assessment as planned. So I think that's something we'll work on going forward to that they possibly don't need to be quite so harsh on themselves. You know, if they've got good news, let's share it. We continue to support the projects. You know, it's clear to us as we're doing more work with them is where projects have dedicated project management capacity and capability. They're able to work through the projects better, and so we continue those discussions where funding allows them to do that. That's what we advise, and of course there's always that balance about what's the cost of doing it, but also what's the cost of not doing it, that they need to balance. As far as work package 1 for Ellen Valley Lakes, that was approved in February. That's moved on at pace. So in terms of the work around the Celtic rainforest, that's on track to be completed towards the back end of August. The lodge acquisition is near completion, and the early work around the plans for the visitor centre, that's been informing work package 2, which is due for submission towards the end of this month. As far as work package 2, as I say, that's coming in towards the back end of this month. We have been working closely with CAT on their OBC, what we've termed phase 1A, which is giving them some support around developing their proposals, which would be formally, an FBC to be formally submitted towards between March and May, May officially, but we'll try and work with them to see if we can bring that submission date forward a bit. But that was approved by yourselves at the last board meeting. We've combined the sites and premises elements for Horeb and Newtown, and as we speak now, BIC Innovation are involved in providing project capability and capacity to take those both those projects forward. So that's been a positive step. We're confirming governance arrangements across all the projects, and there's an intention to circulate a paper, an update on governance to PDB towards the end of this month. But on the whole, it's looking quite favourable. Naturally, we're dealing with some organisations that are outside of both local authorities, and so we need, whilst we'd like to be able to dictate to them, we have to work within their frameworks and get to a position that meets both their needs and the needs of the growth deal. So we've got a number of projects that are submitting their outline business cases for what we've termed checkpoint 1, and this in terms of the revised assessment process, where sharing an early versions of the developing business case with the assessors Hatch, so that they can provide early feedback and give an indication as to our projects on track to complete the business cases and the revised templates. We've had one feedback session which was very positive, very constructive. I had a meeting earlier today where the feedback from the project was very favourable, and they appreciated the feedback that had come back from Hatch on that. So I think that revised process is working in our favour. Should give us good confidence that when it comes to formal submission, we can be reasonably assured that there are no hidden concerns. And then we're also working with the projects to align themselves with our automated reporting system. That's a key development for the POMO and for yourselves, because it will allow us to give you up-to-date reporting, real-time reporting, which is obviously good for the projects themselves, but useful for yourselves having to track progress. So at this point in time, I've given an overall status for the projects, no change from the previous period. They're still, I'd say, probably amber is a fair reflection in terms of where those live projects are. In terms of, I've touched on the governance arrangements. I say we've got 2 projects who've now been approved for funding, whilst we're still in the process of agreeing the awards letter. We're working internally on ensuring that the claims process is fit for purpose and ready to go, because I'm sure once those award letters are signed by both parties, the claims will be submitted in quick succession. There are some signs of slippage on 2 projects, Green Futures and the Newtown development. In terms of the Newtown development, it's a complex project in terms of establishing the advanced manufacturing centre, and so on bringing BIC in to sort of lead and provide some direction for the project. We're reassessing and revalidating some of the information that's informed that, and so probably their submission is put back about 3 months. But we believe it's the right thing to do to give confidence that when we come to developing the business case, that business case will be developed on a sound footing and some sound strategic thinking, and well informed by industry. They're currently re-engaging with industry just to revalidate some of the information that had informed the earlier SOC, but naturally the SOC is quite dated by now, so we believe it's the right thing to do. And the process of developing the outline business case as the next step asks us to revalidate some of the statements made in the SOC. I say I've touched on the new ways of working and working with projects to get them fully accessed and using that automated reporting system. It sounds easy in theory. I'm sure you'll appreciate that the reality of getting external organisations using an integrated system like that. It takes time. We've got officers, and I'd like to point out the support that Stacey Jane Oakham is giving projects in enabling them to use and understand the reporting system. It's a big help to me because on the technical side, that's definitely an area where I struggle. So I'm very dependent on Stacey. And then I just make final reference to the funding gaps that we know exist, but adopting the phased approach that that we've taken, that gives us a reasonable degree of confidence that as the phases are submitted for consideration and approval by yourselves, that we're able to, or projects are able to provide the match funding required to see those particular phases move into delivery. So that concludes. As I say, I won't go through the individual projects. The information is there for your perusal and consideration, but I'm happy to take questions.
Diolch yn fawr i chi, Peter. Felly na i adael fyna nawr. Felly, fel wedodd Peter, mae'n hapus i derbyn sylwadau neu cwestiynau. Mae'n amlwg bod chi'n ar ben y prosiectau yn beth bynnag, Peter, felly mae hwnna'n beth da, beth bynnag. Jake, then, nawr, please.
Yes, no, thank you, and thank you for the detailed report. It's as an observation, I suppose, and thanks to you, Brian. We started to our last meeting to discuss some of the projects that had outlined business case, and I notice now that a diary date has cropped up on the 8th of August for you to spare some time with me to bring me up to speed and with officers around the Horeb case. And Diane has similarly taken time out of her diary to bring me up to speed with the Montgomery Canal proposals. And I hope also that we'll call in at Newtown and look at that as well. So, there's a lot going on here, and I thank you and officers for taking the time to help bring me up to speed.
Na, diolch yn fawr, Jake. Yn anffodus fydda i ddim yn y gorfod rwythwyd gan bod fi yn y Steddfod, ond mi fydd yna swyddogion perthnasol yna beth bynnag. Felly, diolch yn fawr ti am bodloni i ddod na. Mae'n bwysig bod ni yn rhannu unrhyw beth gyda chi beth bynnag. Felly, fel dweud, mae'r partneriaeth yn un agos a cryf, a gweithio bydded hynny i barhau hefyd. Felly, diolch yn fawr ti. Peter, nôl at chi, please.
Yeah, diolch, Mr. Cadeirydd. Councillor Berryman, just to offer the invitation between myself and Carwyn, I'm more than happy if it's of benefit for me to walk through any of the projects I'm looking after. More than happy to facilitate that.
Many thanks for the offer, and at some point I'm sure we might take it up. And you'll also see that Councillor Glyn Preston is on the call, I think, and he's due to take over the economic portfolio from James Gibson Watt in October. So there'll be some further training. So I thank Glyn for coming along at this stage to get himself briefed. But thanks for the offer, Peter.
Ie, fi'n cynnig hefyd, Peter, wrth i'r prosiectau yma datblygu a mynd i'r cam nesaf. Falle bod ni'n neud yr ymdrech i gwrdd ar seit gyda chleirodau prosiectau'n hefyd os yw hynny'n gyfleustau mewn y byd.
Dwi'n credu, Mr. Cadeirydd, sy'n ni'n sicr yn croesawu, a dwi'n siŵr sa ambell i prosiect yn croesawu'r gallu hynny hefyd. Na i ddim wneud neu cytuno ddim byd heb caniatâd Carwyn.
Ie, dim rhywbeth. Ond ni fel cynghorwydd oedd ni penderfyniadau, Peter. Na, diolch yn iawn chi. Os nag oes i bydd all. Nôl at ti, Carwyn, please.
Ie, na i ofyn i John ddo fewn y sydyn, ydyn na i grynhoi ar y diwedd i gair eitem yma wedyn. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Oce, diolch yn fawr. Felly, John, de.
Brown down pub. It's nice to be back in the board environment and to see some newer faces from last time. And welcome to Councillor Berryman to the leadership of POWIS. Last time I was talking to James. I hope you're settling in well to your new role, sir. So just quickly then, and just to orientate you, the report that I'm just talking through is about the Mid Wales Commercial Property Investment Fund. Starts at page 40 of the pack. I am involved in supporting some of the other projects within the portfolio as well, particularly on this, where we've got this larger sites and premises element, and I continue to work with Peter on that. But the report that I'm talking you through is about the fund. So if I can just direct you actually to page 42, there is a bit of a dashboard, if you like, in terms of just summarising where we've got to with it to date. Last time we met, we just launched the fund, and we'd launched the first open call, inviting companies to come forward and express interest in the fund. That closed on the 12th of June, and we had 54 inquiries come through the door by that time. There are other companies that have come forward since then. They missed the window. So demand has been high and interest has been high. And that started at the launch event and subsequent events that we've run online to raise awareness, a lot of interest. So 54 companies came forward. Of those, we did a high-level sift and just making sure of those companies that have given us information, whether those project intentions met with the parameters of the fund. So we did a high-level sift on that, and 22 have therefore been successfully appointed to go through to the next stage, which we call the viability stage, and that viability stage is still in train. So we're targeted to complete that stage in terms of the closing the window for applications to come in by the 8th of August, but we've also got an early submission date target of 24th of July, which is next Thursday. In fact, we've already had 10 submissions through the door now. It says 8 on your report there, but we've actually now had 10. So the reason for breaking up into 2 chunks is to enable the valuation team to get to grips with the proposals in easy bites, as it were. So, and as we have them coming through the door, we may as well start and evaluate them. And so that's the intention. So in the coming period, we'll be evaluating all 22 of those submissions. All 22 companies have confirmed they will be submitting submissions, which is good news. None have fallen by the wayside just yet. So that's good news. You can see the number of inquiries and where they've come from in terms of geographic location. We've had the majority of them in Powys, 4 of them in Ceredigion. That's just the way inquiries have come through the door dominantly, but also perhaps a reflection in terms of dominance of the types of industries in the sectors that we're trying to address, and the critical mass of those lying in the sort of Severn Valley corridor, effectively, Row 7. But the companies that have come through the process so far are listed on the bottom right of that page, if you want to just read down the list at some stage. So the intention now is to vet those applications with the evaluation panel, which is established. So that's members of the econ teams in both councils and also finance team representatives. Myself and my colleague, John Williams, who's the project support officer, supporting the panel. They'll be evaluating those during the course of next month, and the intent is to prepare an outcome report for the Portfolio Delivery Board when it meets on the 4th of September, which is what the programme that's actually contained in the body of the report suggests. So we're on track with all of that. So I'm very pleased to report good progress. I think in summarising, it's obvious that there is good interest in the fund and strong demand for funding of this type. Carwyn already alluded to earlier possibly considering an expansion of the proposal, perhaps in the autumn, in conjunction with other options which the board may wish to consider in terms of expanding the growth deal offer, as it were. So obviously we're thinking about that. We're going to be taking the learning from this first phase and seeing where we can apply that and perhaps tweak the way we manage and administer the fund as well to the best advantage, and provide some of that learning for feedback in the autumn, as Carwyn's already mentioned. Overall, I've ragged the fund in terms of its status as an amber, That sounds perhaps a little bit negative from what I've just told you. It's certainly gaining interest, but we do have a potential funding pressure. The number of companies that are currently going through the process, the forecast project value is 12.6 million. So our potential liability under the fund, as it says on the dashboard, is something like 5.7 million, whereas we only have 4.4 million in our pot at the moment. So there is a funding pressure there. I expect that through evaluation we will manage some of that out, but we may have to be quite selective about which projects we take forward just for the time being to make a financial fit to that envelope. So there is a bit of a pressure in that regard. Also, it's important to remember we're still quite early in the project development process. So whilst it's very encouraging and good signs, we don't know enough about the benefits and the outputs of each project to be able to say, yes, this is all still looking really, really healthy, sorry. So, but all in all, I'm pleased to report a very positive direction for the fund at this stage. I'll hand back to Carwyn.
OK, cyn bod Carwyn yn y mewn, dydych yn fawr am yr adroddau, John. Cwestiwn cloi da fi, o ran y ceisiadau, mi fyddwch chi'n gwerthuso nhw, a rai fydd yn llwyddiannus ar ôl y gwerthuso nhw hynny. A fyddwn ni yn ei penderfyniad ar y ceisiadau yna I gyd wedyn ni yn yr hydre?
No, the intent is that the evaluation panel runs through a series of criteria to assess a score. And then that will give us a ranking order for each of those individual submissions, and therefore they'll give us an opportunity to make a fit to funding for decisions going forward. And then what this board agreed a couple of meetings ago would they provide delegated authority to Portfolio Delivery Board to make decisions about who goes forward to the next stage. So PDB will make that decision at their meeting, hopefully on the 4th of September, about allowing those successful projects to go through to the next stage. They will, and what we've also agreed is we'll provide a regular update in terms of the progress of the fund to this board, to the main board.
OK, good, diolch yn fawr, John. Iawn, os yna rhywun arall mae'n rhoi sylwadau neu cwestiynau cyn bod fi'n mynd o Carwyn? Na, felly nôl at ydy Carwyn, diolch yn fawr.
Just summarise briefly then, Chair. So as members will have appreciated, this is a report for information. We haven't got any big decisions in relation to the growth deal today, but we have provided quite a detailed report on where the growth deal's at. Colleagues have just indicated, in respective, so all 3 areas we've got where progress is currently sitting. In relation to the risks and issues and assumptions and dependencies log that follows from sort of the pages after the highlight report, there are no new risks or anything really to highlight. The general ones which I went through with you in the last meeting still revolve around the match funding sort of issues in relation to projects, the project delivery environment or the project management capacity with individual projects. But as Peter was referring, particularly in terms of the external projects where there has been less capacity and where there has been constraints, we have been putting measures in place to help support them as well. And as I'm sure members will have picked up, from a portfolio management office, I'm comfortable that I can assure you as members that from our side managing the deal, we are doing absolutely everything we can to support the projects to develop their business cases and get to a point of delivery. So if things do not progress and if ambers continue to be ambers or slip into the red, I can be confident in reporting to you, that there wasn't anything further that we could do from the centre ground. And that is important because I appreciate some of these projects have been going for a while, and from a member perspective, the message I keep getting and I acknowledge is the pace of delivery. Very much pace is being underlined by the team and with Fiona's support. The planning aspect of it is really important, ensuring that we know what's coming down the track. To that regard, the business case pipeline in the next few pages then really demonstrates that it is going to be an extremely busy autumn. Some of those milestones will likely slip, as Peter was indicating, particularly with some projects now as we start to have some conversations and developments. I'm not going to go into more detail in terms of some of the live developments we've got currently, but we will be able to report in the next meeting. Because this is a public meeting currently, but things will have to find their way through. But generally speaking, I haven't got any major concerns on where the portfolio is sitting currently. The other element to it is obviously, as I referred into the last meeting, is the assurance review we've got in September. So that'll be my main marker as the officer leading on this to give you a headline as members if we are on track or not, and that's scheduled for mid-September. So by your next meeting, I will be able to give you a high-level readout of what that assurance review was saying. So it's kind of like an Estin exam, the equivalent on our work. So hopefully, I'm positive that it'll show that from our side we're doing everything we can to move it as quickly as we can. Some of the projects may yet, not proceed, or things will happen. But again, that's normal, natural. We are doing some preparatory work now for Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. Sue Balsam from the Economic Advisory Group, we've had the conversation recently, and I'll be working with the group there to take their advice as well as we will look at options. And as you said, Chair, it will be up to you as members then to make the decision if we've got to consider any changes in the deal. My team are currently working up those options to give you that information. So by the autumn, you will be in a position to be able to support any decisions that you might need to make. But I'll end there.
Gwyd, diolch yn fawr ti, Carwyn. Felly, os yna sylwadau i gloi ar papur, Carwyn, neu cwestiynau gyda un o chi. Na, felly diolch yn iawn i chi gyd am eich adroddiadau yma. Felly ymlaen at ti nawr at adroddiad diweddaru ariannol y swyddog 151. Felly, prawn da, Duncan.
Prynawn da. So in front of us, we got the report on the outturn position for last financial year 24-25. Pardon me. So fairly short report. The details shown in Appendix 1. So you've got the detailed budget that was approved for the year. So a total expenditure budget of 642,000 was approved for the year. So the outturn position on the expenditure budget was total spend of just over £617,000. So a small underspend of just under £25,000. Main reason for the underspend was the portfolio management office actually underspent by £103,000. But there were some additional costs which are shown under the portfolio support PAR line. So that's part of the journey in terms of getting some external support to review the structure and review the assurance processes sort of behind the growth deal, etc. Worth noting, within the portfolio management office, there is a line there for assurance where we spent £20,790. That's the money we pay to Welsh Government for the pleasure of those assurance reviews. So that does come at a cost to the portfolio management office to the tune of that 20,790. So in terms of the bottom line position, you've then got income from both parties. So Ceredigion County Council putting in £100,000, same with Powys County Council as well, £100,000. And therefore the balance to be funded, which is a figure of £392,000, falls to be a top slice against the growth deal funding received. So in percentage terms, I think although the report says 3.4%, it actually rounds down to 3.3%. So we're below that cumulative 4% threshold that we know we've got to work to throughout the life of the growth deal. You'll also notice on Appendix 1 that there's a financing equalisation reserve under the reserves memorandum. So we started the year with £103,000 in that reserve. Now this is the interest that we're setting aside in the early years of the growth deal, so where our cash flow balances are positive. So started the year at £103,000, and because we received £15 million, cumulatively we've got £15 million. We've earned 194,822 of extra interest during the year, so that reserve ends the year at just a shade over £298,000. And members will recall at the last meeting there was the financial management strategy that was approved, and that set out various principles in terms of how that buffer, if you like, in that equalisation reserve may help in the short term as sort of a risk mitigation in one sense, or the further we go into the growth deal, should and when cash flow turn negative, then that allows us to fund some of that cash flow negative for a period as well. So there's a benefit in holding that reserve for both of those two reasons. The final memorandum point under Appendix 1 then is the cumulative growth deal funding that's held as at 31st of March 25 just gone. So we've received in gross terms growth deal funding of 15.857 million, so 4 million in year one, 11.857 million in year two, which was last financial year. If we then take off the top slice that we've applied in both years to fund the likes of the Portfolio Management Office, so cumulatively we are at that 3.3% in terms of top slice. We end up with a balance being carried forward of growth deal funding of just over 15.3 million. So hence why we've cash flow positive territory at the moment. But as the board knows, we have started making approvals in the current year, so we will start seeing payments go out in the new financial year. So that's a very, very quick run through of what the report is showing. At this stage, this report is for noting. What we've done now is my team have completed what's called an annual return. So it's not a full-blown statement of accounts, it's a much smaller annual return. That has already been audited by Powys County Council's internal audit service. So that will be going off to Audit Wales very shortly for external audit. And it's at that point when that return's audited externally that it'll come back in front of the board for final sign-off and final approval. So once we got to that point, we'll put it on the next available agenda once it has been fully audited. So happy to take any questions, but yeah, in effect presenting the financial position for last financial year.
Ie, diolch yn fawr, gan fel arfer, adroddiad clir ac ei hawdd i ddeall beth bynnag, felly diolch i'r awn am hynny. Jake, nesaf, please.
Yes, sorry, and I'm hoping it's a very simple thing, and it may be just me, I don't know, zoning out when you were talking about the numbers there, Duncan. But you talked about the underspend, and actually it's a very small underspend against the budget. So actually that indicates a well-managed fund. The question around the underspend, you just talked about that rolling forward into available resources, I think this year. I think that's what you said, but my question was, is that the case, or would that underspend go forward to accrue alongside the reserve that we have, which is the interest on the capital once we first receive it? So it was just me mishearing where it went.
No, that's fine. That's a good and valid question, to be fair. So what we've done is, in effect, the top slice figure, the 3.3% that we've taken from the growth deal, is a balancing figure to fund all of the expenditure. So we could have taken a higher top slice and then left some money in reserves, but we haven't. So the only reserve that does exist is that interest equalisation reserve. There is no general reserve as at the 31st of March. We've constrained the top slice down to the figure needed, basically to balance the account up.
That's fine. So it just rolls straight over. Thank you.
Iawn, Jack, diolch yn fawr. Os na ragor o gwestiynau, nes ydw i Duncan. Nagos, felly diolch yn fawr i Duncan. Wrth yr ogi mewn iawn. Felly, dyna ni wedi mynd trwy ddi eitha da. Felly, os na unrhyw busnes arall ar hyn o bryd. Na, dim byd. Mae dangos yn ei atodiad o dan rhif 8, cyfarfodydd sydd o'n blaen ni. Mae'n anodd amser un o flwyddyn, ond oedd clas gyda ni heddiw yn Ceredigion o ran bod cyngor llawn gyda ni. Mae'n anodd i roi'r cyfarfodydd yn mewn, a mae rhaid i ni parchu bod amserlen Powys yn wahanol i Ceredigion o ran cabinet neu cyngor hefyd. Felly, just bod falle swyddogion yn ymwybodol hynny, mae'n job i bleser pawb, ond fel wedodd Duncan fel wedodd Jake reit ar y ddechrau, mae'n thebyg oedd y cyfarfod yma wedi cael ei roi fewn oherwydd y sioe wythnos ysa. Felly na i atgoffa chi o ran digwyddiadau fydd gyda ni yn y sioe hefyd yn Tŵr Brycheiniog, gadewch o ran i Powys bod ni'n gallu defnyddio yr adnodd yna sydd gyda chi ar y maes y sioe hefyd. Felly, dyna ni, os nag os dim byd arall gyda neb i weid wedyn ni, wedi nodi oedd yr holl papurau heddi beth bynnag, felly oedd hi'n agenda eitha rwydd heddi. Felly, os nag os dim byd arall, mi welwn i chi oedd yn y sioe, felly, prawn na chi gyd.
Cheerio.
Hwyl, diolch.